look at what we have here. On the left are a cluster of bananas called the ice cream, and on the right is another cluster called the apple or Manzano. And we have several racks of bananas growing on these clusters. Today's episodes, we're going to talk about some unconventional ways that we're growing bananas here in California, and we'll talk a lot about banana care. Oh, and now's a great time to like and subscribe to get more content. All right, when people talk about banana care, usually they're very passionate and they tell you that there's one way to do it, and if you don't do it that way, you're all wrong. And I'm here to tell you that sometimes you gotta put aside conventional wisdom and you've got to apply situational wisdom to your specific situation. And we've done that here with the bananas that we're growing here in California. We didn't fully conform to the conventional wisdom. And sometimes when you don't fully conform, lo and behold, you discover something new or you find something that's a little bit different, but enhances the things that you're doing. So we're going to talk about that today. Look at those bananas up there. We're going to talk about the care, and let's flip around the camera and let me share some things that I uncovered and learned through this process. All right, so the first thing I want to do is get you oriented with the banana plants in my orchard. I have about 3 different clusters. Again, the ice cream's on the left, the Manzano's on the right. And look at this, look at all these stalks. Let me get right into the heart of the banana forest, because here's where some of the lessons are. What they will tell you, anybody that grows bananas, or most people that grow bananas, will tell you that you've got to cut all this off. You've got to leave maybe one, what they call mother stalk, and 2 or 3 of the daughters or pups. And that way you focus the resource of the orchard, the sun, the water, the feeding to those couple of stalks. And it will help it grow faster and help it to produce a larger bunch of fruit. But I didn't do it. 1, got busy. 2, I just let it kind of grow natural. I wanted to see what would happen if I let the banana plant just kind of do its own thing. What will actually happen? All right, so let me back up and let me show you the bananas next. So the second thing I wanted to share with you is that banana plants, they stop growing once the temperatures get below about 50 degrees at night. And if that's sustained over, many days, weeks, months, they literally stop growing. They halt in their place of development, and they will pick it back up once the nighttime temperatures start getting back above 50. So here in the Inland Empire, we get below 50 degrees right around November, and that will go until March. So there's 5 months roughly, 4 to 5 months where this plant stops growing. What that means is that the times that I can actually get bananas to harvest are gonna be from maybe April until about October into early November. So for me, having a lot of stalks growing and producing as much as I can in that 7 to 8 month window is a much better strategy than actually having only 2 or 3 pups grow at a time, because I'm going to maximize as much bananas as I can in the growing window. So that was a big thing for me in looking at these bananas and how they've developed and how many we're getting all at once, and why I will probably keep growing multiple stalks at a time. All right, so look at the bananas. And before I go there, just want to point out there's been a lot of bee activity on these flowers. Now, the bees really don't play a role that I'm aware of in pollinating the bananas, but they do love the fragrance and obviously the nectar of these plants. But look at these rack of bananas. And so what has happened in my orchard is I've let these things grow kind of wild. And guess what? We've got several different banana plants or bunches of bananas growing at the same time. Let's count them off. We've got 1 there. We've got another there. And in this cluster, we've got 3 racks of bananas growing at the same time, which is absolutely incredible. Let me work my way around. Let me see if I can work around this way. It's really becoming dense with all the fruit trees that are growing up in the orchard. Let me go over this one first. This is the Manzano over here. And we've got another rack that's growing there. And I had a fifth one that I didn't recognize. I had it, well, I didn't have it, but it was leaning into the Joshua plant. B just told me to back off, so I obliged. But it's growing into the Joshua plant, and I had to use some ropes. See that there? To pull it upright. But it was too late. The bananas didn't really develop because they weren't getting any sunlight. So the first thing that we've observed is that even with growing all of these stalks, we're getting a lot of bunches of bananas, and we're getting them developed at one time, which is really exciting. Let me give you the next revelation in just a second. Next thing I want to talk about when it comes to banana care is going to be the leaves. So again, the school of thought is that you should only have about 3 or 4 leaves per branch. And for the most part, I follow that. I need to come in here and clean out some more. But the reasoning is that, again, the less leaves that are there, the more the energy focuses on growing the main stalk and the food that's developed in the middle. So in these banana plants, right in the center is where the fruit is developing, and is slowly moving up the banana plant till it finally comes out in a flower that you see right there, and then bananas right behind it. And so again, the school of thought is that if you have less leaves, it will focus more on growing the fruit inside of it and getting the fruit quicker. I'm not sure if I fully believe it, because there's a lot of beneficial things that leaves do. They're taking in sun, they're taking in nutrients, they're providing some cover if you're in very hot temperature climates like I am. So, there is benefits to having, more leaves on the plant. So I'm kind of mixed emotions about it. I will tend to keep about 4 or 5 leaves on my tree and cut them off. Like over here, we've got probably 6 or 7. Need to cut those down a little bit, and we'll get to that very shortly here in the orchard. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is feeding. And feeding a banana tree, and even before we get there, let's talk about what I've done with these wells. I've created wells. I have a lot of trees. Almost all my trees are on a hillside, and so I had to create these wells to hold the water, so the water just doesn't run off and it actually gets to the roots, and also a place where it's going to hold the food, which the main source of the food is going to be the leaves and the food scraps, and then layers and layers below. So I kind of dig down, layers and layers of mulch till you start getting to the root of the banana plant. Ideally, you want to have about 6 to 12 inches of mulch. I've got about, I think, probably 5 or 6 here, and that's one way that the bananas are getting nutrition. Bananas like to eat a lot. They like to feed. So you want to supplement that. You want to supplement that with a spray, something like kelp or something. I do everything is organic. So anything that I spray will be organic. I do that about once a quarter. And then I feed it some sort of pour. The fastest way to get food into a plant is going to be through the leaves. The second fastest is going to be pouring it directly so that the roots can absorb it. And bananas have kind of a root system that they all share in a cluster, and new stalks begin to sprout out. As a matter of fact, look at this over here. This one's starting to sprout out on the side because it's running out of places to grow. All right, so you feed it with spray, by spraying it, or you get some sort of organic pour. Higher in nitrogen, the better. And I do that once a month. Once a month is a good amount because, again, they're very hungry and they like to eat and they grow very quickly. And then the last thing is organic fertilizer that I'll put actually into the ground. And it's going to absorb into the ground. The insects are going to, whether it's alfalfa or various different types of organic fertilizer that I acquire, and that's going to take time. That's going to be the slowest method, but over time it's going to get into the soil and create this recycling of energy and feeding that's happening with the banana plants. Let's talk about the flowers for a second. The flowers, one, I've heard of people actually eating these flowers. I think they cook them, boil them, do something with it. Haven't tried that yet, but that could be interesting. But the jury is out. Some people that grow bananas will cut off the flowers, because again, they believe it's sucking up nutrients that can grow in the actual bananas, and others just leave it. I think I'm gonna cut off this one on the left and see how it impacts the development of the bananas and see if there's any difference. We'll have a trial test, we'll have a placebo, and then we'll have the actual one that keeps the flower, and we'll see which one works the best. Look at those bees. They're all around it. But anyways, that's just another thing to be aware of is the flowers. It's optional, and different people feel different ways about whether or not you should cut it off or whether you should keep it on. Just let the banana plant grow naturally. This is really important. Recycle your banana leaves. So you take your leaves that you cut down. Here's an example of a bunch that are laying here. And this becomes part of the food chain, fertilization of your soil, of your banana plants. Now I tend to get a scissors and I'll cut it up or strip the leaves, just because the smaller that you cut it, the quicker it breaks up and absorbs into the soil. Some people just chop and drop. They chop it and then just lay it on top and let Mother Nature do its thing. So you can do either way. But the important thing to remember is to recycle. Very little out of your orchard should be thrown away. You just kind of create that cycle of life. And you definitely do it when it comes to taking the banana leaves and chopping them up and using them as fertilizer. All right, this is the Dwarf Namwa banana. I mentioned I have three bananas in the orchard. This is the third. I bought a third because that is what I felt would be the right amount of bananas to try to keep as many going during the spring and summer and fall months. And let me show you this. I'm watering right now. So this is an example of how I water. See how I'm flooding it? I just run the water hose at about that pressure, run it for about 10 minutes until it floods. And that's it. This tree in the mid 70s would be good for about 5 or 6 days. We'll not have to water it again. So it's that easy, but you do want to make sure that they're well watered, that the soil, just like any fruit tree, doesn't dry out. When it starts to get dry, hit it again. You don't want it to get bone dry. You want it to get slightly dry. Keep a lot of moisture on your banana trees. The other thing real quick is I don't know about making sure, but don't want this tree actually to fruit this year, because we're getting into winter, as I mentioned earlier. The fruit will come up from here. The flower and the fruit behind it comes from the center of the tree up, and it comes from here. But we're late October, and I don't want it to happen now, because it will die out over the winter. So if everything goes right, it doesn't look like it's that close. When everything goes right, it'll stop growing in about a month. And hopefully with this being a dwarf, meaning it's only gonna get to be about 6 feet to 8 feet tall, we should be ready right around March, April of this year. So that's the Dwarf Namwa, the third variety in the orchard. And that's how I water the banana trees. All right, so just to kind of recap, again, your situation is going to vary depending upon where you are and what you're trying to accomplish. You know, are you trying to accomplish, you know, 1 or 2, you know, bunches of bananas a season and have this huge rack of bananas? Or for me, I'm trying to spread it out. I'm trying to have bananas as much as possible throughout the year. And I've got these periods of time where my bananas are not going to grow. They're actually going to stop growing because the weather's going to get too cold. So that's what I mean about, you know, conventional wisdom versus situational wisdom. Sometimes you just got to try something different. And sometimes great things happen when you try something new and try something unique and give yourself an opportunity to do something different. So that is it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm excited about these bananas growing. Can't wait for them. They're probably about a month away, trying to beat the cold because we've been pretty warm. We're starting now to dip into the 70s and temperatures into the low 50s. So I want these bad boys to ripen up super quick before we get to colder weather. So thanks for joining. Appreciate the support, you guys, and the channel's growing, and appreciate all you guys that support it. If you have any questions, comments, if you disagree, throw something in the comments. Let's talk about it. I learn from you guys as well. This is a process and journey that we're taking on together. All right, so I'm gonna sign off, and we'll see you next time.